When I'm at a painting, it's one of the few things that I can really be involved in and work for hours, just challenging myself to find how I'm going to create the three-dimensional objects and how do I tell the story. It was gradual, but it was in my late 20s. It was introduced to me and I had to work at it to find the creativity. Sort of liked it and just worked and worked and worked. And it's an interesting one that many people ask or talk about a talent. And there's something about talent and skill is something you constantly work at, and that's what I did. I found my voice through exactly what my paintings talk about. Finding what I found was one of the failures, not being able to support the family, struggling to connect with people. And then when I was honest with myself and started painting my true emotions, it really came about. The pieces really started to evolve when I started telling stories behind it of my fears. And when I related my fears into my paintings, then success followed and it became the connection. So I talk about that, the relationship between fear and success, or going for it, or being, torn into society. Being able to connect with people, I would have to say, whether that connection is through somebody who ends up purchasing a piece and because they've connected to it. I get the question, how do you let go of something that you've created? And I think it's an honor to have somebody take one of my pieces home and put it in their home. It's something pretty stoked to have that. And I have trouble sometimes realizing that I painted the pieces. And it sometimes takes a while for me to actually appreciate it, because everything I see, there's always a failure. But if I ever was to connect with perfection, I think that would be, in my own eyes, my perfection. I think that would be difficult, because what do you do once you hit perfect? I like that I don't always see something as perfect. I like those challenges of constantly finding another level of art, and I think it's constantly evolving with that. So I'll spend a lot of hours just sitting there redefining things. The act of creating in itself is a challenge. And I think that's one of the things I talk about. What is life without a challenge? And there's different parts of this as a business where if I'm not in the mood to paint, I can change over and find a challenge somewhere else, whether it be the business side of it or the creative side. But when I'm at a painting, it's one of the few things that I can really be involved in and work for hours, just challenging myself to find how I'm going to create the three-dimensional objects and how do I tell the story. And I find it very captivating. It's one of the few things where sometimes I don't even want to listen to music. I don't want any input outside of my own thoughts in my head. Each piece has a story and a reason why I put things in there, and I think very deeply about that. And I have the question a lot of somebody's interpretation. And that's not necessarily the meaning, it's an interpretation. I have a direct meaning of each piece and why I put it there. Now, if you have an interpretation, that's fine. But when they connect with that or they bring in their own interpretation, there's something interesting about that. And it's interesting to hear the views, but it doesn't always connect everything, because there's so many different elements in my pieces. And when they hear the meaning and then they like, oh, as if they were the only one that felt that way, if they had that fear and were able to overcome it, I think that in alone is a connection. It's like that song that we listen to over and over again that we feel is sung to us. And we gravitate towards that. We put a theme of our life to that, and it builds us who we are. I've been doing this for about 12 years. There's sacrifices. I sacrifice the things I love, walking away from my family in order to create a living that supports my family. I love my ocean, I miss that. But there's the element of being amongst artists. There's the element, I was talking to one of the other artists the other day, and it's something this show gives as an artist. Not only the financial side of it, but the creative side. I get instant feedback. There's no way I could have created this without having the element of being live and getting instant feedback to see where it was. There's nothing worse than creating a body of work in your studio and then opening up to the recognition of it not really connecting. Here you see whether it connects straight away. And that's one of the gifts of this show. And to have people purchase your work as you're painting it and talking about it as you're painting it, that doesn't happen in the studio. Like I say, it's a different feeling. I love being in front of my easel alone in my own mind. But to have people behind you going, oh, that's really cool, you realize that you're hitting another element. And it really does push you to the next level. It's an interesting feeling that, like I say, there's a work element and there's a creative element to this show. And I think that's something that's so special and unique here.